This isn't the American M270 MLRS, but its German version, the so-called MARS II.
Visually, distinguishing the MARS II, which translates from German as Medium Artillery Rocket System, from the basic American M270 is indeed pretty damn hard. However, there are more differences between the copy and the original than meets the eye. Where does the MARS II outperform the original? Where does it fall short? And how does that impact its effectiveness? Why do they hand out Hero of Russia stars for destroying an M270? And which of them can survive a nuclear strike? That's exactly what you're about to find out. So, Ukraine received only 5 MARS II units. Oops! Now, there are only 4 left. This is just about the only video where a MARS II gets hit. Yet the Russian side claims 45 destroyed German systems. That's more than the Bundeswehr even has in stock. No comment, as they say. Sorry, here are 2 more MARS IIs. They're being hauled to Germany for repairs. Did they return to the battlefield? Unknown. But
we are working and continue destroying the enemy.
In any case, the MARS II is the rarest and most mysterious MLRS on the front. The only thing rarer might be this hybrid, consisting of a BMW 7 Series and an MLRS. Before we start the main story, subscribe to our channel and you'll see even crazier wonders than this. So, the BMW-based MLRS is impressive, but it surely can't compare to the MARS II in range.
According to the tactical technical specs, the MARS II's maximum range is 84 kilometers.
Right now, that range doesn't offer total safety for the crew, because modernized versions of Russian Lancets demonstrate the ability to hit targets at a distance of no less than 70 kilometers. And this is exactly what forces Ukrainian crews to literally dissolve the MARS IIs into the terrain immediately after a salvo. If it weren't for the tactics the Ukrainians use, we would have forgotten about their existence entirely. Here's how a mission usually goes down. A MARS II never heads to a firing position alone. Up front, a pickup. In the back, a pickup. At the right moment, the convoy halts. The pickup up front blocks the road. The pickup in the rear does the same. Nobody goes anywhere. Everyone waits while the MARS II does its work. Usually, it's a couple or 3 launches. In about 150 seconds, the rockets reach the target. Thanks to their high speed and steep flight trajectory, MARS II rockets are an extremely difficult target for enemy air defense systems, since the time from launch to impact is minimal. But is 3 rockets enough to destroy a target?
Regarding accuracy, it's plus or minus 7 meters.
The MARS II is equipped with the European Fire Control System, developed by Airbus and Krauss-Maffei Wegmann. It entered service in 2011, meaning this is a very modern system that allows for precise control of every single rocket. And instead of hydraulic drives, it's got an electric launch drive system installed, faster, and requiring less maintenance. However, the MARS II uses only 2 types of ammo. Imagine a weapon that costs nearly $1 million, built for just 2 rockets. Maybe there's some super cool secret stuff? The M30 and M31 rockets belong to the GMLRS family, Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System. Yeah, these are high-precision guided rockets with a 227mm caliber. But is that kind of loadout enough for modern warfare? Let's start with the M31. The rocket pack's only a 90-kilogram warhead, yet it possesses colossal destructive power. Its effect comes down to 3 factors. First off, the rocket has a tough steel body and strikes the target at a near 90-degree angle at hypersonic speed. So it literally punches through earthen berms and reinforced concrete ceilings. That means an underground bunker or warehouse isn't a safe haven, because the explosion, which happens right inside the facility, destroys the supports, leading to the collapse of the entire structure. Second, that 90-kilogram warhead generates a massive shockwave. Even if the explosion happens on the surface, everything within a radius of up to 50 meters gets destroyed, even armored vehicles. Third, shrapnel. Although the M31 isn't a specialized fragmentation rocket, upon detonation its steel casing shatters into thousands of heavy, jagged fragments that tear through everything in their path up to 100 to 150 meters from the epicenter.
We hit enemy manpower, vehicles, ammo dumps, command posts. These are surgically precise strikes with maximum effectiveness.
Of course, against manpower, a cluster warhead works better, but the Germans banned themselves from using such munitions and even signed the corresponding convention. It's a bit strange because the other rocket the MARS II uses instead of the Cluster 1 is hard to call any more humane. It's the diabolical M30, packing 180,000 tungsten balls. If a high explosive warhead is a hammer blow and cluster munitions are a scatter of rocks, then the M30 is a steel rain that shreds infantry, artillery crews, trucks, radar stations, and light armored vehicles. The M30 detonates in the air, above a designated point, and in that instant, instead of a single concentrated explosion, a dense downpour of steel is unleashed. So where's the humanity in that? It's simple. Unlike cluster munitions, the M30 doesn't have bomblets that might fail to detonate and lie in wait for years. In other words, humanity here is primarily about responsibility for what happens after the war. Hit the like button if you also think this approach is the right one. However, the American M270 looks like a more flexible system because it can operate both as a high-precision weapon and as a traditional MLRS that churns up several hectares of terrain in a single salvo.
Yeah, we've been working much more intensely, especially lately, because the enemy is pushing from all directions.
The M270's role is so high that they grant the title of hero in Russia for destroying a single M270. It all comes down to the ammo variety. It is essentially a platform defined by what it's loaded with. That's exactly why the Ukrainians are blurring out the rockets in this footage. But you can identify them by the aftermath. The first munitions for the M270 were the M26s, cluster rockets containing hundreds of submunitions for the mass destruction of infantry and vehicles. One M270, with no exaggeration, is capable of blanketing an area, halting an offensive, and denying any further advance. Here's what's left after a strike like that near Pokrovsk. If you want to be even more precise, the M270 slings the exact same M30 and M31 rockets that the MARS II fires, meaning the M270 can replace the MARS II, but the MARS II can never replace the M270. Because if you need to drop a rocket right down the Russian's collar, the M270 gets loaded with ATACMS ballistic missiles with a range of up to 300 kilometers. This gives you the ability to hit some very juicy targets. True, you can only load one missile instead of a pod with 6 MLRSs. But 2 missiles are enough to completely wipe out a Russian recon drone operator's command post, just like in this footage.
When the others can't get the job done, our rocket flies.
Besides that, the American M270 can fire precision strike missiles, which have a range of 500 kilometers. But the modernized M270A2 versions, which underwent the upgrade for the new missiles, aren't being supplied to Ukraine just yet. This modification only recently started entering mass service with the US Army and deploying in Europe. However, precision strike missiles are fully compatible with the M142 HIMARS that are fighting in Ukraine. But these modern missiles also aren't being delivered to the front yet, so we can't say anything about their real combat performance. But we do have a video on our channel about the daily combat grind of the HIMARS, so we won't dwell on these systems in detail, but we'll continue with the differences between the MARS II and the M270. So, the MARS II and M270 sit on the tracked chassis from the Bradley 1FV, which stubbornly drags the machine to places where wheels have no business being. Churned up fields, wet soil, tank ruts, tree lines. But this isn't just a turretless Bradley, it's a distinct vehicle, because a special elongated M993 platform was developed for the MLRS, consisting of proven components: engine, transmission, suspension, tracks, and the general logic of the armor. Here is the result. First off, the missile chassis is significantly longer and has 8 road wheels on each side instead of 6 like on the Bradley. This is necessary to evenly distribute the weight of the massive launcher and ensure stability during a salvo. Second, the engine and transmission are located under the crew cab, and the cab itself is much wider than on a Bradley, seating 3 people in a row: commander, gunner, and driver. But why is the German MARS II 1.8 tons heavier than the American M270? If you want to test your intuition, hit pause and write your guess in the comments. And now for the official info. The weight increase of the German MLRS happened partly due to the electric drives installed instead of hydraulics. But what weighs even more is the better protected aluminum cab module, which features ventilation and an overpressure system. Thanks to this, dirty air, dust, toxic gases, and even radioactive particles after a nuclear strike can't get inside the cab through the cracks. That's not all. The MARS II's armored glass, capable of withstanding bullets and high-speed shrapnel, adds another few dozen kilograms. And the MARS II's mine protection adds another few hundred kilograms. A reinforced hull bottom protects the crew from blasts by anti-personnel mines and light IEDs. The M270 doesn't have this. But neither the MARS II nor the M270 can survive a blast from a TM62 anti-tank mine. Nor can they withstand a hit from an RPG or a Lancet, and their rocket pods are equally protected only by a light aluminum box. A large chunk of shrapnel, or a 12.7mm, can damage the rocket inside the pod, making a launch impossible or dangerous. That's exactly why crews meticulously camouflage their vehicles. The exact number of M270 MLRSs provided to Ukraine is unknown, because the total count includes 6 units of the French LRU modification, Lance Roquettes Unitaires. Distinguishing them from the M270 is even harder. Maybe a video on that will appear on this channel in the future.
We're doing a massive job helping our infantry. I think there's a reason they say artillery is the god of war.
You're also doing a big job when you write your thanks, impressions, or requests for future videos in the comments. We read everything. By the way, check out these playlists. Maybe here you'll find exactly that story about weapon usage and tech in real combat that interests you. Click on any of them and keep diving into the world of war. Stay safe.